Welcome to Queer Next, the podcast that puts the yeehaw in y'all means all. I'm your host, Beck.
And I am your host, Dash. Welcome to today's episode.
How was school?
Actually, pretty good today. I've had a long day.
Nice.
We had to run to Michigan this morning, and so we did that. And then we came down. I had to get a haircut today, and then I had class. Our topic today was cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation, and the quote unquote blaccent and blackface, and
Damn.
it's an interesting lecture, I think.
Is blaccent the same as African American vernacular English?
Yeah, when white people do it.
Also, blaccent is the name of culturally appropriating AAVE.
Exactly, like Iggy Azalea is a big example of that.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's like vocal blackface.
Mm-hmm.
Aquafina does it.
Aquafina, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen the occasional interaction about it on social media and kind of understood it to be something to do with that, but didn't know what the actual thing was.
Yeah.
Do you remember Ebonics? Do you remember when they called it Ebonics in the 90s?
Yeah, it's not a word we use anymore. So
no, It is not.
Yeah. Though I have to have the conversation about, I can't say the word. It's another word for people of color, but then you add the ED on there. If you get what I'm saying, I won't say the word. And I have a policy in my class. If you say it one time, you get a 0 on the question. If you say it 2 times, you fail the assignment. The 3rd time you do it, you get a conduct referral, because I explained very clearly why we do not use that language anymore.
First language.
Yeah. I used the Appalachia example. Have you ever seen the video pronouncing Appalachia on YouTube?
If there's one in particular you're talking about.
If you put in pronouncing Appalachia, you're going to see a lady with red hair and a green dress on. And she's kind of close up to the camera. And she tells a story. She says, if you go to Ireland, right, and you drive through the country and you want to go to the walled city, which the Irish named after the word for oak tree, which is Derry. So when the English came and invaded and colonized Ireland, they called the same town Londonderry. So you can go into Ireland and you can stop at a gas station and you can ask for directions. And either way, they're going to tell you how to get to the walled city, right? But whether you say Derry or Londonderry, you're telling that person your politics, probably your religion, which history you're part of, how you've been socialized. You're telling them a lot of things about you by one word. And Appalachia works exactly the same way. That with Appalachia being the pronunciation of what's the word I'm looking for?
It's the colonized. I mean, that pronunciation is francophone in origin, because it's a corruption of Appalachia, which is the native, the indigenous tribe, or the indigenous people. It's the name of the language, actually, of the folks who lived here when these mountains, or when this region, however you want to think about it, was colonized. And even a colonization of something as recent as America, it's tricky because so many of those tribes, or those family units, or however they identified themselves, were nomadic. So who occupied what land during what time period? I mean, it can change by as quickly as 100 years or something.
Yeah.
So there's multiple layers of indigeneity under every colonized portion of this region. To your point, choosing to pronounce it Appalachia. I know people who've changed the pronunciation after learning about this. Is to signal an awareness of that colonial history, to also signal kind of solidarity with colonized people. This region is two actually of the most brutal and gruesome Indian removal acts, as they were called, decimated Appalachia. The Trail of Tears went, I actually don't remember what state it was that it started in.
I think it's North Carolina.
I was going to say North Carolina too, but I would Google it, but I'm afraid to touch anything. I don't want this mic to just suddenly no longer identify as a mic. Okay.
Let's see here. Northwest Georgia.
I mean, that's one reason, that old joke about how so many people in Appalachia don't want to identify as white trash. They're looking for any way to identify as something other than white trash. So they, everybody's got a Cherokee princess and
Right.
somewhere back in their lineage or whatever. It's like, no, bitch, no, you don't, because the Cherokee were some of the first ones took out of here.
Right.
And
Exactly.
long before your lily white indentured ancestors got here. I'm so sorry, but you are white trash.
Yeah. I am 11 generations of white trash.
Yeah. I could totally understand not wanting to identify as white and also as white trash, because those are two different things. Like,
right.
White trash is sort of a turd that's been polished and is like waiting in line for whiteness. It wants to be associated with whiteness. It's clinging to that proximity to whiteness desperately. It's like the colorism version of a temporarily embarrassed millionaire. Just, wait in line, be a good little boy, lick all them boots. One day they'll pick you. One day they'll pick you. That's what running from white trash is. Like, just be honest about who you are, where your people come from. And there's a lot of people who are like all in a bunch about whether their ancestors owned slaves or not. Just go ahead and make the assumption that whether they did or didn't, your ancestors were engaged in some fuckery associated with slavery.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't own them, they could have been like overseers. They could have been, I forget what they were called. The people, the ones that caught escaped slaves that became police later.
The patty rollers.
Yeah, I think so. Like, just because my, poor ass ancestors didn't have the land to own slaves doesn't wash them clean of anything that hegemonic whiteness did. And it also doesn't mean that they weren't out there doing the same shit these folks are doing when they suck up to ICE, when they're sucking up to fascism right now. And like, the fact that a lot of y'all are still out here doing that shit also makes me think that your ancestors were not blameless, because that apple didn't fall far.
Yeah. I keep hearing people talk about when the regime changes, when the regime changes. And I can't wait to see the big, beautiful obituary is all I'm saying.
Look, I got something to show you.
What's that? Ooh, where'd you get that?
Describe it for the listeners, and then I'll tell you.
It is a holographic kind of image. When you turn it one way, it's one picture. When you turn it the other way, it's another picture. It's a picture of Donald Trump, and it said "Daddies." And you turn it a little bit, and it shows a picture of Epstein and Trump together. It says "a pedophile."
Oh, my therapist sent me that.
Well, that's an interesting origin story.
No, there's multiple of them, actually. This one might be a little harder.
Defend the homeland. Join ICE today. Be our Gestapo. Join ICE. Obey. Ooh.
And it turns into the "they live" like lizard skeleton alien inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's one. That's actually kind of difficult to get that to show up on camera. There's one of Christy Nome, though, too. And it says it's the same language, but her transition is
her
pretty
face
fierce.
changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'll link the artist or artists. There's a website here, Bad Taste, Good Cause. And it is some sort of, their website is wacky. And they are not serious about anything, apparently, except for, making fun of these folks. But they describe themselves as a DEI comedy troupe that they've got all kinds of stuff. They got stuff on Gaza, but it's such it's very heavy satire. So like, if you're not into satire, it goes so hard as to be a little bit like upsetting. Like this one just says, "Stop talking about Epstein." And if you weren't familiar with They Live, you'd be like, what am I looking at? But yeah, that showed up in my mailbox, like snail mail from my therapist.
That's awesome.
Holograms. You got the right one. I think they might be stickers. I'm not sure. I'll find out some other time.
How was work today for you?
I started out okay, started out strong, and then I fucked off the last 2 things that I was supposed to do because I started hurting so bad that it made me feel sick, and I had to get up and move, but I'm on Zoom, and so I all that stuff. They're very important meetings with very important people, some of them, not all of them, but So I was like, okay, I'm gonna quit. So I rescheduled one thing, which is fine. Or it's two things. And then the other thing, actually I didn't want to go to it anyway.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. This is the first like small school I've ever worked at. And it could be that this is a common thing at a lot of schools this size, but people will just put stuff on your calendar. They don't email you first and say like, hey, can we meet and talk about such and such? Or, hey, do you have time for this or that? They see an open spot on your calendar, they put a meeting on it. And there have been times when people have gone so far as to not say anything in the invite about what the meeting is about. It's the rudest damn thing.
Right.
So sometimes there'll be things like that. And this one, maybe it was something that would have made sense to me if I hadn't been like absent from work for 3 months. But I was like, I don't think this has anything to do with me. I'm going to skip it. But there were two minor crash outs that led to me sort of like going, I need to take some time away from work and figure out like something's going on, like mental crash outs that happened while I was at work, like on the job. And one of them came from a coworker did that to me, just stuck something on my calendar, and it was a presentation. And I was like, maybe they just assumed that because the person who had this 25% of my job before me did it, that I knew that I was going to be doing it, or it implied that I had said yes to doing it. And like her position was like, well, it has to be done. And on a proper campus, that doesn't mean you're obligated to me. Like I've identified you as a subject matter expert on this. Therefore, you are obligated to do this for me. But it does here. I don't know why, but they forget that we have this whole other main campus that has a bunch of resources that they can draw from. They forget that they're also not stupid morons who can't put a thought together. They forget that there are best practices collected by multiple of professional organizations that have existed for decades. They don't engage with any of that stuff. If there's not a human being that they can they can force it on this campus, it just doesn't get done. And it was an LGBTQIA2S plus training. And I'm like, I mean, I could do this, but also you've got YouTube and the Safe Zone Project exists. And I didn't have any support on finding this person and going like, what, I can't do. I didn't agree to do that. It just appeared on my thing. And so I just was like, fine, fuck it, I'll do it. And they showed up with the students, and the students were the rudest damn bunch I have ever taught.
Oh, wow. That's saying something.
Ever. I have taught middle schoolers in Upward Bound that showed me more respect than this bunch of students did. And there were two chaperones that were our students, and then there was the full-time staff member that was my colleague, and did nothing to intervene. And so I'm going through like, okay, normally it would be a discussion, and it would be like, okay, so what are some other words for lesbian, right? Basically I was going over language. They were new to campus, and I was basically being like, here's some appropriate ways to describe things. Here's some things you might hear. Here's some things that, I would go over, like reclaiming slurs and queer and yada yada, like baby bunny shit. Seriously, It could have been a YouTube video. And when I would say things like that, like they would say slurs. They would intentionally choose to say slurs and stuff. And when I was describing trans people and non-binary people, they started like laughing and like whispering to each other. And I looked at my colleague, and she was just looking at her phone, and I could feel, I was like, something's wrong. I don't have the patience I would normally have. It's my job to let people call me fucking slurs and stuff, right? Like, I've spent 12 years doing this. I want out, but I understand that I'm not out yet of it. And so I was like, I'm getting really angry. And so I tried a couple times to like bring them back in, and it was only halfway through the presentation. And I was like getting very angry. And so finally I said, 45% of our students identify as LGBTQIA2S plus. Every single room you're in while you're here, there will be at least one of these people in the room with you. I hope you're attitude changes between now and the first time that happens. And then I took them on a tour of the basement and I kicked them the fuck out. And I've never done that before. I've never ended a training early. Or a presentation. Nobody has ever gotten to me. People have threatened to physically assault me in a training over how uncomfortable their unlearning was, over how stressful it is. Usually I can manage big emotions, but I was like, I'm about to lose my temper, and that is not good. It's not safe at all. And by safe, I mean I wouldn't have physically harmed them, but like the things I can say to a young person that will fuck them forever, I don't ever want to be in a position to feel like I've done that.
Right. I'll spare you the details, but in the middle of my dad dying, I had a bit of a mental break myself, and one of my bosses showed me a lot of grace because I did not handle myself with beautiful conduct. It was just a bad choice of words, and he understood. He sent me an email and he was like, "Do you want to explain this?" And I was like, "Well," because I had kept him that what was really happening in my life, and there was just trauma after trauma after trauma. And yeah. I cracked, and it was some girl. I was trying to show a movie. It wasn't even my class. I was trying to show a movie, and some girl got loud out in the hallway, and it made me very angry. I ran my mouth, and they showed me a lot of grace for that. So
yeah, that's good. We have power, right? We have influence, and we have status and stuff over the students, and so like we could be struggling or whatever, and we should have the space, I guess, the safety net, the length of rope to have a bad fucking day, but we don't.
Yeah.
Right. And I was so on all the time and nobody was helping. This person, that thing she was doing, that was 100% of her job. The thing I was doing there that day was one of the 5 things that I am assistant director of that I was so behind on. I was so behind on everything because people kept doing shit like that to me. And because somebody thought it was a great idea to shove a bunch of impossible shit into one job description.
Right.
So I was like, I never talked to students like that before. And I know that I'm evil, right? There's a monster inside me that has been fed a bunch of trauma and is looking for victims sometimes. Like when that kid said, you look like you're from Kentucky. I was like, you don't know what's inside here. You don't know what it wants to do to you.
Yeah. There's a kid from my hometown in one of my classes this semester.
Cool.
He's cousins with the girl that sat next to me all through high school because it's a small town,
Yeah.
If he's not my cousin, he has to be a cousin of somebody I know because I have 41 first cousins. But I thought that was interesting. We were talking and somebody asked me where I was from and I was like, I'm 75 miles straight south of Columbus. And after class, he was like, where are you from? And I was like, the Lucasville, Portsmouth area. And he was like, I'm from Rosemount. And that's like 5 minutes away. It's the town between Lucasville and Portsmouth where the McDonald's is and about not much else. That McDonald's is famous of being the child drop-off point for a lot of people. When you exchange for the weekend, when dad comes to pick them up or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it's a neutral spot. I've known several people that used that place for that.
It's funny.
I got a book in the mail today.
What'd you get?
It is called Black AF, The Unwhitewashed Story of America by Michael Harriot.
Cool.
Yes. I'm excited to read it. With all this free time I have.
Is that for your diss?
It can be. I'm going to make it so.
Yeah. I was reading about, I don't remember her first name, this Black musician in Seattle who was like, she's credited as the godmother of grunge.
Oh, yeah?
Tina Bell is her name. She had a band called Bam Bam. She passed not recently, but she is no longer with us. She died about 13 years ago. But yeah, so I'm gonna go on a deep dive of her music because the students are into music this year, and that's cool. I can work with that. So we're doing playlists and making so some lo-fi jams to study to, or taking your angsty, cold ass walk for your mental health, like making playlists to share for that.
That sounds like fun.
And I also made a movie list for Black History Month for the students. That's why I asked you if you'd seen 42. I put that one on there.
Oh yeah, I wrote a whole 25-page paper about the use of the N-word in that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, like there are some scenes. Like there's one scene when Jackie first joins the league, one of the managers, I forget the number now, but it was like 48 times he uses that word in one scene. And it's Jackie putting up with it, you know,
Yeah.
the patience of a freaking saint. And what I realized is that I was so angry that they put that in there, that it was such a, my first thought was that it was a gratuitous use of that word, right? And I was like, it didn't fit there. And then I thought that really was his experience. That was what he dealt with. And if it makes me uncomfortable for the 3 minutes I have to watch it, just imagine what he felt when he was going through it every day, you know? And then I was like, that's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yep. There's a pedagogy to using uncomfortable language in film, right? And making, especially like there's a critical whiteness pedagogy to it. Just, can you even imagine this? I've been thinking lately, you know how people are pointing out that because of Renee Good specifically, or especially, white people are sort of going like, oh, so we can just be killed in the streets now from minding our business and not doing anything, you know? And people of color in America, specifically Black people, are like, yeah, that's
welcome to the fucking club.
right.
I pointed that exact fact out to my classes this week. Yeah. That exact fact.
That, and then I'm also noticing a lot of cis women, especially cis, like liberal white women of kind of means or affluence, not like super rich, because I don't know very many rich people, but because of being in academia and also being in podcasting space, I have friends who they grew up wildly different than me, right? They're like, when we would go to events and stuff together, go to see a show or something, like they're in Chicago renting out hotels and I'm in the hostel. They're talking about the SAVE Act, and there's also a kind of gotcha rhetoric that they'll do. I've seen this one on TikTok where they're like something like, I bet you can't name a rule or law that governs men's health or bodies that changes by state, but there is for women, right? Like, and they're referring to abortion.
Not just that. If a woman wants to get a hysterectomy or whatever, they just won't let them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's lots of ways that the rules are different for men and women.
And the SAVE Act is like if you have changed your name because of marriage, but you didn't update your birth certificate, then you'll have issues registering to vote and stuff like that, or being allowed to vote. And I'm just thinking, like, that's the trans experience. That has been the trans experience all along, right? Like, we choose where we live based on whether someone is allowed to let us die in an emergency room for religious reasons. That's why I was terrified to have this surgery in North Dakota. I filled out a DNR because if somebody had a religious objection to me being transgender and I needed emergency, like resuscitation or something during surgery, they had the right to let me die because they didn't want to touch me, or their religion says that I shouldn't exist at all, right? And so I'm just thinking about this and how it's scary for them. I know it's scary, right? It's scary for us. It's always been scary. I know it sucks to find out that your rights are not as solid as you thought they were. I know it's scary to see people who look like you be executed in the streets when that's not really been the case before. But had you come along with us back when we were begging you to be our allies, you wouldn't be as gooped and plucked about this now. You wouldn't be as shocked. You'd be more prepared.
That's absolutely right.
So like when Black women were begging y'all to come and, support their Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, you could have been new about all this stuff. You could have been prepared. When trans people were trying to tell you that like what was happening to their healthcare was going to affect more than just them, maybe even just begging you to give a fuck, you could have already learned what you needed to do to be prepared for this, but you didn't because your privilege kind of protected you until now. I still don't want to be like nanny boo boo. That's not what I'm intending here.
Right.
Nobody should be losing their rights. Is somebody coughing?
That's Wenda. She's on a medicine right now because she has a little bit of a cough.
I was exposed to my first ever, my first like cigarette smell since quitting.
How'd that go?
It was nasty.
Yeah.
Somebody drove by. I was walking back from the store. I haven't been craving a cigarette or anything like that. But the other night, I've been having weird dreams. I had a dream that I was craving a cigarette. Like in the dream, I was like, man, I really want a cigarette. But I was talking myself out of buying them, you know? And then I woke up with, what the fuck was that?
The funniest dream I've ever had to do with buying cigarettes.
Was this the meatloaf one?
Yeah. I dreamed that I stopped at a Speedway in Portsmouth and asked for a pack of Marlboros. She was like $4.95 or whatever. And I pulled out a hunk of meatloaf out of my pocket and pulled off a chunk of it and paid with that.
Do you think like dreams, do you think they all mean something specific? Like, are they all always like us trying to tell? Or
I don't think every dream is, but I think some dreams are. Like after my brother died, I dreamed of water like almost every night, and or bridges or something like that. And when I had the thought, it's all water under the bridge now, they went away.
Yeah, I think like we work on stuff, I guess, like unconsciously while we're asleep sometimes, and it comes out in our dreams. I also think that it's true that we have a lot more dreams than we remember. I go through these phases where I don't remember anything at all from being asleep, but I know I dream.
Well, I take a medicine to help me not remember my dreams because I remember them so vividly, and I have a lot of nightmares. It doesn't always work, but they're less wild than they used to be. No meatloaf dreams recently.
Have you ever taken what's it called? Melatonin for sleep?
No. I think I did one time and didn't feel anything and just never.
It doesn't put me to sleep, but it makes me dream. So I'll like be awake, but I'll start dreaming. Absolutely horrifying experience. And I can feel myself like needing to go to sleep, but it doesn't actually put you to sleep. I think it just starts the REM cycle, whether your body likes it or not. So I have not taken that in a long time. Of course, I also, Jesus Christ, these days I'm going to bed at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, me too.
8:30, I'm sitting here nodding off in front of the TV. What happened to us?
I used to get off work at 11:30, drive to Huntington and go to the bar, shut it down, and then drive an hour back home and then get up and do all that shit all over again the next day. Like I would die now trying to do that.
I used to work second shift at the bowling alley for years, but like the first probably 3 years I worked at the bowling alley, I would come in at 5 or 6, and then we'd close at 1 a.m. and it would take us until 2 a.m. to clean up everything because people would go to this bowling alley to get turned. And it was a redneck ass bowling alley. And it had a bar in it called Champions. And I worked there through the recession. And so they slowly cut down all the staff. I was the mechanic. But if somebody barfed in the bar, I had to go clean that up because I was also what they call the porter. And so I had to shut down that entire building. It took me an hour at least. And so then you're wired, after doing that because it is physically demanding. So I get home at like 2:30 in the morning and I'm not sleeping, right? And so that's how I kind of started like drinking myself to sleep. I would start drinking as soon as I got home. And then usually by the time the sun came up, I could go to sleep. And then I would get up at like 3 p.m. and do it again.
Yeah.
God, the thought of that right now, I would probably take my life if you found a way to force me into some shit like that.
Yeah. When I used to work for Amazon.com customer service in West Virginia, and we didn't get off until like 2 o'clock in the morning. Shanna and I both worked there. And we ate so much Taco Bell during those years. It was ridiculous because nobody was open at that time of night. It was Taco Bell or this hometown restaurant called Dwight's, where a cheeseburger was huge, but it was like $20 for that and some fries or whatever. And you could only eat that so many times before you gain 80 pounds. So
yeah, Taco Bell staying open till 4 a.m. was a game changer in Richmond.
Yeah.
I get that to eat on the way home, and that was a pretty unhealthy point in my life because most of my calories came from booze, and my job was so physically demanding because the first several hours of the shift, it was a 32 lane bowling alley.
Wow.
Yeah, and during, say, like Monday nights was the men's league, they filled the bowling alley, and I would be the only mechanic, and if there was breakdowns or stops or something like that on the pin setters, I'd have to sprint down to lane 1 because the mechanic shop was on lane 32. It wasn't in the middle like it was on a lot of regular houses, like the first bowling house I worked at. It was right in the middle, so either way you turn out the door, you could get there pretty quick. The mechanic shop was at the end of the building off of lane 32, and the men's league was always started at the other end of the house. So I sprinted back and forth for 3 hours straight. Sprinted, just trying to like keep all these like just pins getting tossed or something like that, or ball returns. You're obviously not doing major repairs but God, woe betide you, something actually breaks down and you have to move them lanes or something. Like if it's a full house, we would keep one set of lanes for breakdowns. But if something was broken when I came in, because the dudes who worked the night shift were not trained well enough to actually troubleshoot and do large repairs. And I actually became the person who did that on day shift because I taught myself how to do it on night shift. So I got moved to be the head mechanic on day shift after a couple of years because I did work Monday nights, and they would always give away those fucking breakdown lanes, and something would inevitably break because the GSX pin setter is half plastic. Piece of shit. It's all plastic and specialty switches, and they wouldn't let us buy a new solenoid. So we invented a process. It's a little like coil of copper, basically, or some sort of hyperconducting metal that can hold a charge. So like we would use them to open and close the pin holders so the switch would tell it open, close. And so the solenoid would fire a pin based on whatever signal it received or take the pin back. And so that's how the pins would go up like this, open, and then go back, horizontal, and then leave the pin there. And so if that was malfunctioning, it would do this, not let go of the pin, come back up. So it thinks it did its job and there's no fucking pins there. So, and there's a million things in that one process that could break. First of all, those pin flaps, they're plastic. The whole pin holder is plastic. The switch could tear out. The wiring could tear out. The solenoid could burn itself out because it really is like 100 feet of copper wire coiled together. And so after so many charges, the plastic coating on it can like melt or something, and then it just zips itself, and then it's no good. So we would pull the covering off, take a Dremel and scrape it back to find where the short was, and then solder it back together, put new heat shrink wrap around it instead of buying new solenoids because the recession was so bad we couldn't afford stuff to repair it.
Wow.
Like we did all kinds of redneck shit back there. And sometimes we did it for fun because you can't leave the shop whenever league's in play. And so if things are going good, you're just bored. And so we would clean and do stuff like repair solenoids. But we also built a motorcycle out of spare pin setter parts. We didn't go to school for half of the stuff that we were doing back there. So we taught ourselves it's called arc welding. Some people call it stick welding. So you just it's a current, pretty high current. They look like jumper cables. They are. Put one on whatever you're welding and the other's a ground on this like big generator. Put a rod in the other one and then put it on the metal and you can weld it that way. And so just through trial and error on broken pieces, we would learn how to weld. And those frames, they're really, really good steel. And so this crazy dude who was my supervisor for a long time, like one of the reddest people I've ever met, just absolute redneck. He and his dad grew weed up on his dad's property. He lived in a camper. He didn't have a driver's license. He just like drove with this motorcycle to work every morning, and then he would go into the shower and shower at work because he lived in a camper in the woods. It's like he just wandered in from the hills and was like, yeah, I can fix literally anything. So yeah, so this was a redneck bowling alley.
It sounds like it.
So he brought in a little engine, just a 2-stroke, and got a rear tire with the chain to put on it. And then I fabricated a brake system, and somebody brought in like a go-kart steering wheel, and we just slowly over course of a season built this thing, and then we would drive it around. But I don't know. I wonder what happened to it. Can you imagine, like, because this was all going on behind the building. And so most customers wouldn't drive around that far.
Right.
We had these big bay doors. Talking about dreams, I dream about that workplace a lot.
Yeah. I dream about college campuses a lot. I have the stress dreams that they're like student dreams, but they're the professor version now. Like I dream that I show up and don't have the exams, which happened to me last semester.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I had an 8 a.m. final, and I got halfway there and realized I left the test sitting on my table here. And so I had to turn around and go back. And so to make up for it, since y'all had to sit there for a half an hour, I was like, I'll give you full credit for the essay question. Just do the rest of it. And nobody was mad at me anymore after that. So
I used to hear the sound of pins of a bowling ball hitting the pins in my sleep, or like as I was falling asleep. You know, have you heard of exploding head syndrome?
No.
It's just a neurological thing where sometimes people will suddenly hear a really loud sound, like their head's exploding, but there's no sound. It's just in their head.
Oh.
It sounds terrifying. I don't think I had that or anything, but if I was falling asleep, you know, like you do the little twitches and things as you're falling asleep, and I would hear that clear as day, that sound of a 16-pound bowling ball hitting all 10 pins, the way like the polyurethane pins sound as opposed to the wood ones. I do kind of miss working on pin setters because it was so, I'm not going to say simple. Like troubleshooting is one of my favorite things.
I think the reason because I like to bake when I'm working heavily, I think it's because in our work, it's never finished. And those kinds of jobs, you start it, there's a beginning, there's an end, and you finish it, right? And you go on about your life. And I think that we crave that sometimes because there's so little of it in academia. It just goes on and on forever, my friend. It's the song that never ends.
Yeah. There's kind of a narrative arc to troubleshooting or making something.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't learn anything about engines, though, like combustion. I don't know shit about combustion engines. Like motors, electric belts, I got you. But
my dad wanted to teach me about motors, and I had no interest whatsoever. His knowledge was just wasted because I have no interest.
You know, like my interest in doing anything has arrived way too late in life to really be of any use to anybody. And I think it's because I transitioned so late in life. Like before that, I was just trying to like not be noticed. Even the fact that I was the only female pin setter mechanic that anybody at Brunswick or Ace Mitchell had heard of. People would ride along with the Ace Mitchell salespeople from Akron, from the Ohio territory, to see the female pin setter mechanic.
Oh, wow.
And like quiz me and shit. The dude he picked me out of all the dudes. I was obviously the only person who wasn't a cis guy who worked in the shop. And he had to kind of defend picking me to be his apprentice when several of the guys wanted the position. But I remember one of the things he said was like, first of all, you actually listen to me. Like cis guy culture is very like, I already know everything I need to know. And you should want me because I'm already the best, not because, you know, I'm a good learner. I'm a fast learner. And then he also said, like, there was plenty I didn't know about using various tools. I didn't know how to weld or whatever. But he said, your learning curve is a vertical line, which might be the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. So he was like, I will take that any day.
Did you see the comment we got on our newsletter today? I got an email. I don't know if you got an email.
I just actually saw that a minute ago from Neural Foundry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. They were appreciating the 1-lane bridge bit, and also commented on my I don't know what I'm doing with this like I was thinking about soap operas and then thinking about like how sponsors like coming up. It's fun to come up with them and stuff like that, but like where do they go? I think back about old sponsors sometimes. So I was just like, well, maybe I'll turn them into little anthropomorphic. So we got episode 1 today. So let's see what I've done here. So welcome to the first episode of the exciting new serial, Queer Next Sponsored Wrestling Federation. This episode is brought to you by Creaky Rocking Chair versus the Fraying Lawn Chair. Rocking Chair is representing the Front Porch All-Stars. Hand-carved, hand-me-down, older than the house it's sitting in. It doesn't move fast and it doesn't move far, but it keeps time. It knows every secret in the holler. It remembers when you left, and it remembers when you came back, and it remembers that you were drunk. Out in the yard, plastic legs sunk halfway into the dirt is the Fraying Lawn Chair. Flying the colors of the Holler Tchotchke Alliance, bought cheap, folded wrong, sun-bleached, one more sit away from catastrophic failure. It's light enough to throw, it's loud enough to be heard, and it's young enough to believe instability counts as a strategy and also kind of a personality. This is the Appalachian Championship Wrestling, and the porch is no longer neutral ground. They don't yet touch, the rocking chair settles back on the boards and rocks just enough to be heard. Creak! It's not a threat, it's just a reminder that it's been holding bodies longer than this moment's been alive. The lawn chair doesn't sit, it just leans, one leg bent wrong, fabric pulling apart at the seam, aluminum frame buzzing in the heat like it's daring someone to try it. It shifts, scrapes, folds away, snaps back open. It looks accidental if you don't know any better. Behind the rocking chair, the Front Porch All-Stars don't rush. They lean in and they watch, and they've seen this kind of thing before. Out in the yard, the Holler Tchotchke Alliance won't stand still. Somebody's pacing and somebody's too close. Nobody's pretending this hasn't grown personal. The porch creaks louder and the yard goes quiet. The Front Porch All-Stars say the porch is earned. You sit here long enough and you belong here. That rocking chair's been in that spot since before anyone remembers who dragged it up. But the Holler Tchotchke Alliance says the yard counts too. It says you don't need permission to pull up a chair. It says space gets claimed by showing up. Last summer, somebody dragged the lawn chair into the edge of the porch just for a minute, just for shade, just to see. It scraped the boards and the rocking chair didn't move an inch. Nobody said anything. That's how you know. Come back next week for episode 2, the continuation.
Well, that was fun.
Stupid. This is what happens when you get bored.
I hear you. I haven't felt that in a little while. I've been so busy with school. I feel like it's just one thing after another.
Yeah, Brisket has found an odd position to sleep in. Oh, they're getting famous at work for interrupting everything I try to do because the speakers are broken on my Mac. And so I have to use the headphones every time I'm on Zoom. And so the cats don't know who I'm talking to because I'm not sure they would have figured it out anyway, but they definitely think I'm talking to myself because they don't hear anything I hear. So I start a meeting and Ziggy's up in my face like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Who are you talking to? What's going on?
What do you think they think when they see us undressed? Is it like we've peeled our fur off or?
Yeah.
That must be so jarring for them because Peta likes to come in the bathroom when I'm showering and she'll just stand there and look at me. I think she's like, what are you doing?
What are you? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
I know that they definitely think it's fucked up that I get into the shower. And
yeah.
After I'm done with it or whatever, then they'll be over there like touching the wet floor, or, Brisket will lick parts of lick it's disgusting to me, but I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to understand what the appeal is. There's a woman on TikTok whose cat likes to take showers, goes and begs to have the shower turned on and the door opened, and it just goes and just hangs out under the water.
What a freak.
It's been a long time since I've given a cat a bath. I see you got your hair cut.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
She went extra short this time. So
Yeah, you got a nice fade.
yeah. I like having my hair short. I really enjoyed my time. One of my favorite things about being down there at Mom's was going to the barber shop,
Yeah.
because our friend that you graduated with recently, when she lived down there with me, she took me to the black barber shop, and that was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I love black barbers.
Yeah. The barber that she had me go to, he was in the same elementary school I was in, a year behind me, so we knew a lot of the same people. So that was cool.
Nice. Learning how to navigate barbershops was well, I mean, still not really done it, but like after transitioning, I remember asking somebody like, who's I need to find a barber, like who's a barber you recommend, and they went like, do you want a black barber or a white barber? And I was like, I don't feel qualified to answer this question.
The girl that cuts my hair now, she's a queer woman. She's in a straight facing relationship right now, but she's a queer woman. But we talk about a lot of different things, and we were talking about white privilege. And I said, even when you go to beauty school, I said, they don't teach you black hair, do you? And she said, no. She said, you know what they did teach me? She said, the one thing they taught me about black hair was how to do a relaxant, like how to put a relaxer in. And
Wow.
yeah.
So how to make it look more white.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Because if you need your hair done and you live in Bowling Green, Ohio, you're going to be going, and you're black, you're going to either Toledo or Detroit to get it done. There's nowhere in BG that I know of. Some, like on the BG, trade page, sometimes you'll see girls post on there, their students that they say they can braid and stuff like that. And I've heard other people say there are people who are well known on campus for being able to braid, but unless you're like in on that, you there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. I actually learned to cut hair from the girls that did braids at my undergrad because I just happened to live with them, the floor I lived on. The girls who braided like there's a lot of football players at first, like I think that they were friends with. A lot of those girls came from Bryan Station, the school there in Lexington. And then they just made friends with the other black people that needed their hair done, but they didn't know how to cut hair. And I was cutting my own hair. And they were like, we need somebody to do a lineup before we can braid his hair. Like his edges are awful. Like he needs, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't know what you're talking about. I've got these clippers, but if you explain what you mean, I'll try my best. And so like we did the best we could, but there wasn't really like Google yet. So I couldn't do any research. I didn't have anybody to ask for help. I'm sure I fucked up some people.
I've let Shanna cut my hair many times.
That made me better at cutting my own hair. Like that's probably why I could give myself a phase, because I learned how to, like, a big part of cutting textured hair with clippers is like angling, learning how to actually manipulate the angle of the thing and account for like the way skin moves under textured hair. I don't think I could be a barber though.
Yeah. My years as a photographer taught me I couldn't do a public facing job like that, where it's constantly your talent on display.
And it's so personality forward.
And people expect you to be on it every time. And you have good days and you had bad days, And
I'm just such a cunt now, like if I don't like somebody, I could force myself to interact with them, but not for very long and not for more than once.
Yeah. Like, and if I never have to do Christmas photos of anybody ever again in my life, it will be too soon. I hated doing Christmas photos of families. Oh God. The kids were always in itchy outfits and
and the
brats.
we're like, the parents are always like, aren't my kids just perfect? They're the best ones.
Oh yeah.
But also I hate them. Well, did you bring a noun of Appalachian interest?
I did. I brought a regional one today. All right. This week's noun of Appalachian interest is Ale81.
Ooh.
Known to friends, family, and gas station clerks as Ale81. Ale81 comes from Winchester, Kentucky, and started with a man named G.I. Wainscott, who had already been bottling soda there since 1902. Before Ale 8, he made Roxa Cola, but in the 1920s he decided to try something different. Using what he had learned about ginger-based drinks while traveling in Northern Europe, Wayne Scott developed a new recipe and started bottling it in 1926. He even held a naming contest, and Ale 8 won, meaning that it was the newest thing on the market, which folks quickly shortened to Ale 8 1. By the 1930s, the drink was doing well enough that Wayne Scott bought an old livery stable and turned it into a bottling plant, which feels exactly right for Kentucky. When he died in the 1940s, the company did something unusual and split ownership between his wife and his employees. Eventually, the business ended up with the Rogers family, who still run it today. By the 1970s, they stopped making every other drink just to focus on Ale 8 1, which tells you everything you need to know about priorities. The recipe itself is a family secret guarded closely enough that only a couple of people are said to know it. What people do know is that it has less caffeine than most big-name sodas, and that it tastes like ginger, citrus, and a little bit of stubborn regional pride. Over the years, Ale 8 has branched out into zero-sugar versions and seasonal flavors, but the original green bottle still does most of the talking. For a long time, you could only find Ale 8 1 in parts of Kentucky, which made it feel like a local handshake in liquid form. Now you can spot it further away, especially if you walk into a Cracker Barrel, but it still feels tied to home. People who grow up with it miss it when they leave, and people who stay feel defensive in a loving way when outsiders ask what it tastes like. Ale 8 1 is not trying to compete with anyone. It has already outlasted trend, soda wars, and several generations of taste tests. It just shows up cold and dependable like it always has. That's this week's Noun of Appalachian interest. Open it, take a sip, and understand that you're drinking history with bubbles. Are you a fan of the Ale 8 1?
I do like it. I love the gingery flavor, but it is so much sugar. It's so sweet. It's like almost syrupy to me that I get like thirstier the longer I drink it, and I have to have water after that.
That's how I feel about Welch's grape soda.
Yeah. No, I love Ale 8, and we called it Ale 8. I don't know. I know it's Ale 8 1, but the whole time I was in school, we just called it Ale 8. They've got a diet version now, and they also have several flavors other than the standard ginger and lemon lime soda type mix thing it is. There's a cherry one and an orange one, I think. Oh, black cherry. Yeah, and it's good too.
Yeah. I thought about doing Cheerwine, but Ale 8 1 felt more at home to me. So, because Cheerwine is more North Carolina, so I went with the Ale 8, the Kentucky.
I've never had Cheerwine, but I only recently learned about Cheerwine because I was on the road. Yeah, and is it just black cherry flavored like bubble drink, or
what do you mean bubble drink? Like soda?
Is it like a soda, or is it like a lemonade?
It's like a soda. It's like a soda.
Okay. Yeah. I never heard of it until I went on the road in Eastern Kentucky, and people they sold it at all the little like dairy bar type diners. I was like, what the hell is Cheerwine?
I discovered it when I went to North Carolina one time to the Outer Banks with my friend, and it was everywhere down there. And I was like, well, I got to try that.
North Carolina is gorgeous. I've only been there a few times for very specific reasons, but like the Blue Ridge Mountains, just absolutely gorgeous. And they also, because there is so much shoreline there, both freshwater and is there marine as well? I don't know shit about geography. Does North Carolina border the ocean?
Yes.
Okay.
It absolutely does.
I was pretty sure it did. But because I would go there with this ex of mine to Greensboro, and we would always go to this oyster bar. Have you ever been to an oyster bar?
I'm allergic to most seafood, so no.
Yeah, I'm sure this would get you. But it's just
anything that turns red when you cook it out of the ocean, I'm allergic to because of the iodine. I'm allergic to iodine. Okay. Yeah, iodine and peppermint oil.
Well, these didn't. They were steamed and they didn't change colors, but that I still wouldn't trust it because they're technically shellfish. But they also might have been freshwater. I don't have a ton of experience with these oysters, and they weren't like anything else I've seen, like oysters on the half shell. These were steamed, and they would shuck them, and then they had different dipping things. And it was just a dude with a really thick, crooked tool of some kind, just pulling oysters, big-ass oysters, out of this steamer and cracking them open. And he would just like bloop, 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 throw them into our plates, and we would dip them in stuff. They're delicious. I've never had them since, but I was like, North Carolina became a magical realm in my mind when I had that. Like driving through the mountains and then finding this beautiful like seaside, but like also mountainous place with this amazing food I'd never even heard of was cool.
My dad lived in Southern Virginia, and when he was in hospice, I went down there a couple of times and got to drive the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
There's a music festival called Merle Fest that used to be in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Oh my God, they're still having it. This is like a legit music festival. Like I met Ricky Skaggs here. Some friends of mine from Williamsburg went every year, and like literally every year like clockwork. And they were also all musicians. They were all these old dudes that I learned to play music with, bluegrass musicians. And I went with them like twice. I didn't go when I was in college.
I have a friend that tours with different, she's a merch manager for several bands, and she tours all the different festivals and everything, and that's her job. I thought that would be an interesting way to live.
Yeah. Merch girl. When is spring?
Spring break is about 4 weeks away. September. March 2nd, I believe, is when spring break is. So
there's still going to be snow on the ground. So
it's supposed to be in the 40s this coming week. Well, we're supposed to get 2 inches of snow Friday, but then next week is supposed to get up to 40 degrees. So we might get some melting. I'm so sick of this snow everywhere.
Yeah.
We had 9 days in a row where it was below 20 degrees.
Yeah, I think we're going to get above 20 at least.
It was like 27 yesterday, and it was like a heat wave out there. I didn't wear my gloves or my scarf or anything.
Well, we're going to get above freezing next week.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to go see Send Help this weekend. It's a horror movie directed by Sam Raimi, he made the Evil Dead movies, and he made that movie Drag Me to Hell. I really like him, but I can't figure him out. But something he does is he loves to, he has very interesting female characters. And I love Rachel McAdams. She can sell me many things.
Right.
Have you seen that Disobedience movie with her?
No.
It's a lesbian movie with her and Rachel Weisz. I'd never heard of it, but it's about these two women who reunite at a funeral. They knew each other in childhood, and they were like intimate. They were like learning that each of them was attracted to girls together, but they're from but this very like strict Orthodox Jewish faith. So Rachel Weisz's character moves away, and then she comes back, and they sort of take up this relationship again. And the whole time we were like seeing Rachel McAdams' character, she's in this wig. It's called From this culture, and it's very reserved and conservative. And so they cover their real hair with these wigs that are a particular style, kind of the way, how Pentecostal have their own style stuff. Right. You can kind of clock them, kind of like that, right? Very conservative and very like specific. And, you're like, oh, okay, well, they had a thing, but maybe she's married now, right? She married this dude that they were friends with and stuff. And then all of a sudden they go to they wind up doing something together on some day, and they start like making out, and then they go to this hotel and have the nastiest sex. It was so great.
Like blue is the warmest color nasty? Or?
No. Like actually hot, like actually like, a little choreographed because it's a movie and they have to, whatever. But it wasn't male gazy. It wasn't. I mean, I swear to God, I think there was fisting in Blue is the Warmest Color.
Yeah.
Like that. No thanks, right? So not like that. Like it seemed like it was real sex, but there was this like at the end after they have finished with the most vigorous bits, they're just kind of lying there together, giggling. And I think it's Rachel Weisz is lying on top of Rachel McAdams, and she's looking up at her, and she holds her tongue out, and Rachel Weisz spits in her fucking mouth.
Ew.
It was disgusting, but also oddly sweet. Like Okay. I've never seen anything like this movie.
What's the name of it again?
It's called Disobedience.
Disobedience. Okay.
I liked it. I even liked the ending. Cameron Esposito said something. She was like, I liked it until the ending. It doesn't have a good ending. And it's like, it has a good ending. She leaves her husband. We don't know what happens next. She doesn't like just jump directly into a U-Haul with Rachel Weisz before the movie's over. She's in a transitional period, right? Like, it's just because your ship didn't happen doesn't mean it's queer baiting. She's still queer when the movie ends, right? She has her awakening. She knows who she is and stuff. It's a good ending. It's just not what you wanted. And they'll probably get back together anyway because they were just so cute. But yeah, it was intense. And there's this cool thing about faith in it too. Like the guy she's married to is I don't know the words for kinds of Jewish church leaders and things, but he's on this path to become the main guy in their little sect, and he has this crisis, and his story is interesting too. So yeah, I recommend it. But I was like, I actually kind of like clutched my pearls a little when I saw that. Because they also like, it just cuts to it and there she is. And I was like,
ew.
I'm not this gay.
One of my students tonight asked me what I thought of RuPaul's Drag Race. And I was like, I appreciate the art form, but it's too gay for me, which is the truth. I just don't like the stereotypes. And when people are acting very like gay stereotypes, I can't handle it.
Well, and even Ru girls, like, they start criticizing as soon as they come off of it. Like, it's very much a means to an end, and they are manipulated.
She asked me if I thought they were doing blaccent and if that was okay. And I was like, they're absolutely doing blaccent. Some of them. And it's cultural appropriation. If they're not black, then they're absolutely doing that. So I thought it was a cool question.
Yes. Yeah. It's critical thinking.
Yeah.
Well, what's for dinner?
We had Bob Evans for dinner.
Ooh.
They have a new thing for $25. You get a 3-piece chicken tender meal with 2 sides and a salad, and you get a cake and an ice cream.
I was trying to find some junk food at this store when I was over there, but I'm having a hard time feeling hungry.
Yeah.
Well, let's get off of here. Everyone, thanks for hanging out with us for another week. Thanks for all the comments. We got a comment on YouTube, I think, too, from Techno Pop Tart. I forget what I think they were talking about. Oh, Passions. They were saying how much they appreciated. That was their favorite story.
You have to watch some episodes on YouTube.
Oh man, should we react to some soaps? We should pick something else. I don't know about a movie, but we should pick something else to maybe not like a full-on review, or we could do a review, but something that's just like watching silly shit. Do you know what I saw somebody talking about on social media, how like queer people love a YouTube night? I felt so seen. It's so true. Like, we would sit over at Eric's and just like pass his PlayStation controller back and forth and take turns picking YouTube things to watch on YouTube. Like, sometimes we would pick music videos. Sometimes we would like remember dumb shit. Sometimes something crazy would like suggest itself.
I watch more YouTube than I do my other apps, the ones that I pay for, because we keep YouTube on the TV. And I watch a lot of like news shows and comedy shows, and I have some people that I follow on there. And
yeah, we should do a little reaction thing to some of our favorite YouTube stuff. We could have a YouTube party.
Okay, I'm in.
You can actually, there's a bot for that in Discord, but I'll do some thinking about it and see if there's an easy way to do it. Well, everybody be good or be good at it. And if you haven't, if you're new to us, we got some new listeners, some new like international listeners. Give us a little 5-star review or whatever it is on whatever app you listen to. Just kind of help people find us. We appreciate you. And be safe and say hi to your mom and them.
Bye.